Ukrainian forces recently advanced in the main Ukrainian salient in Kursk Oblast amid continued fighting in the area on December 3, reports the U.S. Institute for the Study of War. Geolocated footage published on December 2 indicates that Ukrainian forces recently advanced in southern Darino, southeast of Korenevo. Russian milbloggers claim that Russian forces advanced in Novoivanovka, southeast of Korenevo and near Malaya Loknya, north of Sudzha. ISW has not observed confirmation of these claims, however. Russian sources claim that Ukrainian forces unsuccessfully counterattacked near Darino, Nikolayevo-Darino, southeast of Korenevo, Novoivanovka, and Pogrebki, northwest of Sudzha. The commander of a Ukrainian unit operating in Kursk Oblast reported on December 3 that Russian forces are struggling to supply frontline units, transport armored vehicles to the frontline, and accumulate forces for large-scale attacks due to poor logistical support. Elements of the Russian 106th Airborne Division are reportedly operating in Kursk Oblast, and elements of the Chechen, Akhmat, Spetsnaz are reportedly operating in the Sudzha direction.
The Ukrainian armed forces have tied down about 50,000 Russian soldiers in the Kursk region of the Russian Federation and are continuing to destroy them vigorously. One of the areas there has already turned into a road of death for the Russians. This was reported by military expert Reserve Colonel of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Roman Svitan, Channel 24 reports. According to him, the highway leading to the village of Lyubimovka can be called a one-way road for Russian military personnel in the Kursk region. It is under constant fire control from the flanks. The Russians are trying to cut one of the main supply lines of our northern group on this bridgehead and are falling into a trap. We have a lot of experience there. The defense forces are simply waiting for the enemy to come into their hands, the expert noted. At the same time, as he added, Russians are afraid to leave the road because they know that everything around is mined. This is the road between the settlements of Snagost, Zelenyi, Shliak. Its length is 14 kilometers. The Russians call the road of death, because Ukrainian defenders destroyed dozens of Russian vehicles there. This path is covered with destroyed enemy equipment, a burnt-out trail left by the enemy in defeat. Paratroopers and other units of the armed forces of Ukraine systematically destroyed enemy military equipment, leaving only ashes and debris. The largest losses of equipment were suffered by the infamous Russian 155th Marine Brigade. The Russians lost millions of dollars worth of equipment on this road. Among the destroyed vehicles are tanks, including T-72, BMD-1, Airborne Fighting Vehicle, BM-3, BMD-4, BMP-2, Infantry Fighting Vehicles, Akhmat Fighting Vehicle, BTR-82A, Armored Personnel Carrier, Tiger Fighting Vehicle, MT-LB Motorized Ski. Let us recall that the New York Times praised the holding of Russian territory in the Kursk region as a positive moment for Kiev. Although Russia has managed to retake at least a third of the territory in the Kursk region in a few months, recent counterattacks aimed at displacing Ukrainian troops have not made significant progress. Since early August, Ukrainian soldiers have been conducting an operation in the Kursk region. Dozens of settlements are under Ukrainian control. President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenski, said that a buffer zone had been created on Russian territory. Russians are trying to regain their territories and are conducting offensive operations. According to RBC Ukraine's sources, the Kremlin has postponed the order to push the Ukrainian armed forces out of the Kursk region, with the new date set for February the 1st, 2025. According to intelligence reports, Russia will send DPRK troops to the Kursk region to try to push back Ukrainian forces. Currently, the Ukrainian Defense Forces control the central part of Toretsk city, but the situation there changes every hour since the Russians do not stop meat assaults. This was stated in an interview with Ukrainian Truth by the commander of the 4th Battalion of the 101st Separate Brigade of the General Staff Security of Ukraine, Bohdan Popelnuka. Our infantry are titans. Everyone who is there is a hero. They do superhuman work, hold house after house, inflict fire damage on the enemy, inflict losses on him so that he gives up the offensive, and the Russians are endlessly marching like meat. Forward. Take this house, he said. He noted that Ukrainian fighters understand that there is a war in the country now, and they need to mow down the enemy, so they do not need to be persuaded to take up positions. They don't need to be told. Vasya, you have to. Vasya knows it himself. When we set a task for the infantry to enter a position or conduct assault operations, then all the questions that they will ask will concern the situation, he noted. The military man also noted that the majority of Russian prisoners in this area are prisoners, and young ones at that. The oldest prisoner was a boy born in 1998. The rest were born in 2001, 2003. When you talk to them, they say, "We have a better chance of surviving when we go forward towards you than if we go back and say that we are the 300ths, the soldier says. He also notes that Russians separate as much as possible those who have been mobilized, friends, or those who were imprisoned together, so that around them there are only those who are ready to shoot a comrade in order to survive. Popelnuka notes that if the Russians manage to capture Toretsk, they will rush to Konstantinovka, since there is a fork in the road that leads to the main settlements of the Donetsk region. In Toretsk, Donetsk region, fighting continues. The defense forces are holding back the enemy's advances. At the same time, the Russians' advance in Toretsk is minimal, as the press secretary of the Operational Tactical Group of Troops, Lugansk, Anastasia Bobovnikova, said in a month they advanced one street, and during this time they lost 70 to 80 people, killed and wounded every day. At the same time, the occupiers have made significant advances in the city of Kurikovo, after the capture of which they can concentrate all their forces and reserves to occupy Pokrovsk in order to reach the rear of Toretsk. And Chasovoy Yar believes the head of security programs at the Center for Globalistics Strategy 21, Pavel Lakichuk. Military and political observer Alexander Kovalenko stated that the Russians plan to establish control over the Kurikovo salient by the end of 2024. According to him, they need it for an offensive on Pokrovsk, which the enemy wants to capture as early as 2025.